Early in the morning of December 4th, 2024, United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson arrived at the Hilton Hotel in New York City to attend their annual investor conference. Soon after, 26-year-old Luigi Mangione shot him in the back and killed him. I've not really paid a lot of attention to this case, but over the past few days, I have started to look into it. So this video is going to share what I found. In other cases that I've looked into, I create a spreadsheet with a column, reasons for this person being the killer, and another column, reasons against them possibly being the killer. In this case, there is zero evidence Luigi Mangione is not the person who killed Brian Thompson. Currently, he has 20 charges against him, and he has pled not guilty to all 20. Luigi was born in 1998 in Towson, Maryland, about 20 minutes north of Baltimore. He had two older sisters, and his wealthy grandparents owned real estate, country clubs, senior rehabilitation centers, and a radio station. In 2018, Luigi posted a reply to another user on a Reddit discussion group about brain fog, indicating that he may have contracted Lyme disease at 13 years old, which he believed contributed to his long-standing brain fog and insomnia problems. Quote, "It's absolutely brutal to have such a life-halting issue, especially since the issue itself wears down the critical and logical thinking mind you'd usually use to tackle it. The people around you probably won't understand your symptoms. They certainly don't for me." End quote. Despite this, in 2016, Luigi graduated high school as valedictorian of the all-boys Gilman School in Baltimore. In 2020, he graduated with honors from the University of Pennsylvania with a bachelor's and a master's of science in engineering, both in computer and information science. A few months later, Luigi began working remotely as a data engineer for TrueCar during COVID lockdowns, including living in Honolulu, Hawaii, where a surfing incident added to his existing health problems, which included a grade 2 to 3 diagnosis of spondylolisthesis. Yes, I think I pronounced that correctly, which is a condition where one vertebra slips forward, causing back pain and nerve compression, also known as sciatica, with numbness in his legs, feet, groin, and bladder. Luigi quit his job at TrueCar in February 2023, describing the job as, quote, mind-numbingly boring, end quote, and said he wanted to focus on reading and yoga, which some people find mind-numbingly boring, like my YouTube videos. Luigi wrote several posts on Reddit describing his health struggles and a July 2023 spinal fusion surgery, which provided him some relief, but he also told a friend that his health issues made dating and physical relationships impossible. This is an X-ray that he posted on Twitter, presumably of what his back looked like after the surgery. During the first half of 2024, Luigi went backpacking in Japan and Thailand, and in April 2024, he advised someone on Reddit to tell their doctor that their pain was preventing them from working, so the doctor would approve surgery. This is a quote from Luigi. "We live in a capitalist society. I've found that the medical industry responds to these keywords far more urgently than you describing unbearable pain and how it's impacting your quality of life." End quote. Luigi stopped posting on social media by summer 2024, and it's unknown exactly where he was living in the months leading up to December 4th, 2024. On November 18th, 2024, Luigi's mother reported him as missing to the San Francisco Police Department, stating that she had not heard from him since July 2024. She thought he was living in San Francisco working for TrueCar, which had an office there. I'm not sure what their relationship was like that it would have taken his mom 4 months to report not hearing from her son. My mom would call the police after 3 weeks because I only talked to her once every 2 weeks. 6 days later, on November 24th, Luigi arrived in New York City on a bus that originated in Atlanta, Georgia, but it's not clear where he got on. He checked into a low-cost hostel using a fake New Jersey driver license bearing the name Mark Rosario. It's not clear what Luigi did for the next week, but he was captured on surveillance video on December 3rd, just before 8 p.m., walking near the Hilton Hotel while he was on the phone, and the victim, Brian Thompson, walked past him in the opposite direction. On December 4th, the day of the murder, this is how Luigi's day unfolded. 5:34 a.m., departed the hostel using an e-bike headed toward the Hilton Hotel. 5:50 a.m., arrived at Hilton Hotel, 5:52 a.m., entered the hotel, and at 6 a.m. he exited. At 6:15, he bought a water bottle and granola bars at Starbucks. Between 6:38 to 6:44 a.m., Luigi stood silently against a wall across from the Hilton Hotel. He was fully masked with his hood up. At 6:45 a.m., he saw Brian Thompson walking across the street and followed him from behind. Luigi then fired 3 times and hit Thompson in the back, through his heart, and in the leg. Thompson was rushed to the hospital and pronounced dead at 7:12 a.m. Luigi fled the crime scene on an e-bike, riding it through Central Park, then got in a taxi, and eventually took a bus to Pennsylvania. Police later found his backpack in Central Park, and it contained Monopoly money and a Tommy Hilfiger jacket. The story immediately became international news as images of the masked gunman were released. On December 5th, a San Francisco police officer recognized Luigi's smile from the missing persons photo his mother submitted, and he alerted the FBI and New York police departments. On December 9th, a customer at a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, notified an employee that another customer resembled the man wanted for Thompson's murder. Police arrived soon after and asked Luigi if he had been in New York City recently. They noted he became nervous. In his backpack, police found the following: a 9mm handgun with a 3D printed receiver, which is the housing for the gun's main components, 2 ammunition magazines, a 9mm hollow point round, a 3D printed suppressor, also known as a silencer, clothing that resembled the shooter, fake IDs, including the one he used to check into the New York City hostel, a notebook and writings containing clues about the attack, $7,800 in cash, foreign currency, and a passport. One of the only things we have in common is we both like McDonald's hash browns. Luigi was taken into custody and sent to New York City a few days later. He's on his way to having more mugshots than Lindsay Lohan. So how did a high school valedictorian with a master's degree and a bright future turn into a murderer? Luigi's notebook provided answers. I did my best to decipher Luigi's handwriting. On August 15th, 2024, he wrote the following: 1 month in SF, I assume this means San Francisco, crazy slow, lack of urgency, lack of routine, sleep schedule, exercise. See spiral about the catch-22. This may be a reference to another spiral notebook. That said, I finally feel confident about what I will do. The details are finally coming together, and I don't feel any doubt about whether it's right or justified. I'm glad, in a way, that I procrastinated because it allowed me to learn more about UHC, United Healthcare. The next sentence seemed to start with the initials KMD, but I looked online, I could not find any major CEOs or companies with those initials. I know that WMD means weapons of mass destruction, but I'm not certain that he was contemplating any kind of plan that would be some kind of mass destruction event. Let me know in the comments below if you have any ideas what KMD could stand for. Luigi continued, KMD would have been an unjustified catastrophe that would be perceived mostly as sick, but more importantly, unhelpful, would do nothing to spread awareness or improve people's lives. I'm feeling foggy, so I can't write with speed and clarity and confidence, but these ideas have been floating around for the last few days and I want to write them down. The target is insurance. It checks every box. Next is an entry from October 22nd, 2024, approximately 1.5 months before Brian Thompson's assassination. Luigi wrote the following: 1.5 months. The investor conference is a true windfall. It embodies everything wrong with our health system, and most importantly, the message becomes self-evident. The problem with most revolutionary acts is that the message is lost on normies. For example, Ted K., the Unabomber Ted Kaczynski, makes some good points on the future of humanity, but to make his point, he indiscriminately mail bombs innocents. Normies categorize him as an insane serial killer, focus on the act and atrocities themselves, and dismiss his ideas. And most importantly, by committing indiscriminate atrocities, he becomes a monster, which makes his ideas those of a monster, no matter how true. He crosses the line from revolutionary anarchist to terrorist, the worst thing a person can be. This is the problem with most militants that rebel against often real injustices. They commit an atrocity whose horror either outweighs the impact of their message or whose distance from their message prevents normies from connecting the dots. Consequently, the revolutionary idea becomes associated with extremism, incoherence, or evil, an idea that no reasonable member of society could approve of. Rather than win public support, they lose it. The revolutionary actions are actively counterproductive. So let's say you want to rebel against the deadly, greed-fueled health insurance cartel. Do you bomb the headquarters? No. Bombs equal terrorism. Such actions appear the unjustified anger of someone who simply got sick or had bad luck and took their frustration out on the insurance industry while recklessly endangering countless employees. What do? You whack the CEO at the annual parasitic bean counter convention. It's targeted, precise, and doesn't risk innocence. Most importantly, the point becomes self-evident. The point is made in the news headline, quote, "Insurance CEO killed at annual investors conference," end quote. It brings to light the event itself. A bunch of suits from JP Morgan and Morgan Stanley meeting at a fancy New York City conference to discuss growth rates and NLR of a company that literally extracts human life force for money. I believe NLR stands for net loss ratio. It conveys a greedy bastard that had it coming. Members of the public can focus on greed, on the event, through reasonable, acceptable discussion. Finally, the hit is a real blow to the company financials. All those analysts and institutional investors who came to be wooed by insurance execs, that opportunity is snuffed in an instant. Instead, the company becomes a hot topic, perhaps best to invest elsewhere and let that one cool off. End quote. Lastly is one final note that Luigi wrote to the FBI. Quote, "To the feds, I'll keep this short because I do respect what you do for our country. To save you a lengthy investigation, I state plainly that I was not working with anyone. This was fairly trivial. Some elementary social engineering, basic CAD, a lot of patience. The spiral notebook, if present, has some straggling notes and to-do lists that illuminate the gist of it. My tech is pretty locked down because I work in engineering, so probably not much information there. I do apologize for any strife or trauma, but it had to be done. Frankly, these parasites simply had it coming. A reminder, the US has the #1 most expensive healthcare system in the world, yet we rank roughly number 42 in life expectancy. United is the 5th largest company in the US by market cap, behind only Apple, Google, and Walmart. It has grown and grown, but has our life expectancy? No. The reality is I'm not sure if he wrote mafioso. The reality is these mafioso have simply gotten too powerful, and they continue to abuse our country for immense profit because the American public has allowed them to get away with it. Obviously, the problem is more complex, but I do not have space, and frankly, I do not pretend to be the most qualified person to lay out the full argument. But many have illuminated the corruption and greed, for example, Rosenthal and Moore, decades ago, and the problems simply remain. It is not an issue of awareness at this point, but clearly power games at play. Evidently, I am the first to face it with such brutal honesty. P.S. You can check serial numbers to verify this is all self-funded, my own ATM withdrawals. The Rosenthal and Moore reference is to New York Times reporter Elizabeth Rosenthal and documentary filmmaker Michael Moore, who made a documentary in 2007 called Sicko, which examined the U.S. health system. Luigi left more online clues, revealing how he ended up outside the Hilton Hotel that morning after stalking Brian Thompson. On January 3rd, 2024, Luigi left a 4 out of 5 stars book review of Unabomber Ted Kaczynski's manifesto on the website Goodreads. His review included the following quotes: "When all other forms of communication fail, violence is necessary to survive. Peaceful protest is outright ignored. Economic protest is impossible in the current system, so how long until we recognize that violence against those who lead us to such destruction is justified as self-defense?" Also, the 3 bullet casings fired from Luigi's gun had a word written on each with black marker: delay, deny, depose, which are similar to a 2010 book titled Delay, Deny, Defend: Why Insurance Companies Don't Pay Claims and What You Can Do About It. Delay, Deny, Defend is turning out to be Luigi's trial strategy. In 2024, Luigi did not have a job, and he was dealing with serious health issues. So would Brian Thompson still be alive if Luigi had been employed, healthy, and in a relationship? Did Luigi feel like he had no future and nothing to lose by doing this? It's unknown how Luigi paid for his back surgery and other health problems, but he was not a customer of United Healthcare. So why did he target Brian Thompson, a married father of two, and the CEO of United Healthcare? Because they were the largest health insurance company and became the symbol of what Luigi characterized as the deadly, greed-fueled health insurance cartel. In 2023, United Healthcare rejected 32% of in-network claims from sick customers, which exceeded the industry average of 16% and helped United Healthcare's 2023 revenue reach $324 billion, which was the fifth highest in the US, only behind Walmart, Amazon, Apple, and CVS Health. United Healthcare is a huge company, and their health plans provide coverage for over 51 million Americans, and they employ over 400,000 people. So what impact did Luigi's assassination of Thompson have on United Healthcare and the health insurance industry? Mostly, it has just been a drop in United Healthcare's stock price in half. Before the murder, their stock was around $610 per share. In June 2025, it is close to $300 per share. However, it's not just because of the murder. The decline is also due in part to the company's financial performance, higher Medicare costs, a Department of Justice investigation into Medicare Advantage billing, a shareholder lawsuit, and in May 2025, CEO Andrew Whitty resigned. Luigi has 20 charges spread over 3 cases: federal, New York, and Pennsylvania. United States Attorney General Pam Bondi said the federal case will seek the death penalty as part of President Trump's agenda to make America safe again. The New York case includes a terrorism enhancement for intent to intimidate the healthcare system. Luigi's defense attorneys filed for the New York State case to be dismissed or to happen after the federal trial because they argued that concurrent state and federal prosecutions violate the Double Jeopardy Clause, the 14th Amendment's Due Process Clause, and Luigi's rights against self-incrimination. The defense also want the terrorism charge removed because they say there is not evidence that Luigi intended to intimidate or coerce a civilian population or influence the policies of government. But prosecutors state the words delay, deny, depose on the shell casings and Luigi's diary show anger over United Healthcare's greed. Luigi's attorneys also sought to suppress statements he made to the police in Altoona, Pennsylvania, because officers failed to provide him with Miranda warnings. So what happens next? For the federal case, the next court appearance is December 5th, 2025, when the judge will probably set a federal trial date, but the defense has argued because of the death penalty, they will probably end up filing motions that will likely delay the federal trial by several years. For his New York case, the next hearing is scheduled for June 26, 2025, and the trial is anticipated in 2026. Finally, for the Pennsylvania case, there is no scheduled hearing date for those charges. This case has a lot of strong opinions on both sides, with a fair amount of people happy that Luigi assassinated the CEO of a large company, resulting in online donations for his legal fund at over $1 million. However, the defense has an uphill battle when it comes to convincing a jury to ignore the evidence against Luigi. At the beginning of this video, I mentioned that I create spreadsheets when I look into a new case and keep track of evidence that either points towards someone being guilty or against them being guilty. In this case, I have found nothing that points to somebody else being the killer. Reasons for Luigi being the killer: police found a notebook confessing he was responsible for the murder and acted alone. He checked into a New York City hostel using a fake ID, which matched an ID he had when he was arrested in Altoona, Pennsylvania. Luigi was captured on video the night before the murder, passing Brian Thompson on the street near the crime scene. Police collected a cell phone that he dropped while running away from the Hilton Hotel. Luigi's fingerprints matched a water bottle and candy bar wrapper discarded in a garbage can prior to the shooting. Also, his DNA was on the cell phone, water bottle, knapsack, gum, and wrapper discarded by the shooter. Police also found a discarded backpack in Central Park with chewed gum and a black jacket worn during the killing. Ballistics testing revealed that the 3 shell casings fired to kill Brian Thompson were fired by Luigi's gun and had the words "deny, depose, delay" written in black marker. Finally, he fled New York City for Altoona, Pennsylvania. The only reason anybody is ever in Altoona, Pennsylvania is because they're hiding from something. People can debate corporate greed and how to stop it, but there is no doubt Luigi Mangione was the person who pulled the trigger that ended the life of Brian Thompson. I'll continue to make community posts about any major updates as the case progresses. Thanks for watching.